I'm not naive about this. I don't think Congress is going to say, oh, wow, Amnesty says these things. Let's change their policies. It's not. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to give people the confidence, and I wanted to sort of say that, yes, it might not be, we might not convince the Gary Ackermans out there. We might not convince, these individuals on the Hill, the Pelosi's. But it's still nonetheless to go to your member of Congress and say, I'm outraged over your vote on this resolution. I'm outraged over your unwillingness to criticize Israel, even though a third of those killed are children. We need to do that, even if it's quote unquote not, if it's not going to be effective, i.e., but because we need to have different definitions of what is effective. To me, this has to be a generational issue. If we have subsequent generations of people who are willing to go to Congress with the very strong messages that aren't watered down, then maybe the next generation there'll be much more of a movement. I've already seen more people willing and interested in going to the Hill with these issues, and I think the same is with the administration. Amnesty has not criticized Obama for his position on Gaza, but on day one of office or day two of office, then we're ready. As soon as he makes any comments, because to us, this is a question about holding government accountable and making sure our tax money is not being used, to supply these bombs that are, bombing UN facilities and universities, etc. Another one is to write to the U.S. media. I highly recommend you write to the Washington Post, letters@washpost.com, to the front page story about the, so-called debate about whether or not civilians are being targeted. There's obviously Thomas Friedman, etc. It's interesting because when the UN school was hit, the first New York Times headline was, Israel bomb hits near school. The Guardian, the BBC, not even to mention Al Jazeera, which has been doing great coverage on this, has all said that Israel bombed school. Where in fact was the bomb? The bomb was at the playground. I don't know about, but the playground is a school, like when you're a kid and you're told stay on the school grounds, you're still okay if you're in the playground. And it's so shocking to me that in subsequent New York Times articles, it did improve its coverage and it said that the school was attacked. But that first headline, which Yahoo picked up and AP and all those others, was that the U.S. Israel bombs near the school. And I think we need to be vigilant about this, and we need to write the New York Times and the Washington Post, because I'm amazed. I did the presentation to interns yesterday, and I always think, okay, these are Amnesty interns. They're savvy. They're getting on the Guardian and Al Jazeera English. And I was amazed how someone like, oh, I didn't even know the Guardian has got coverage of this. And it's amazing to me, like that there's the Haaretz has really good coverage. But, even though I read these things, and I think all of us probably read them daily, a lot of people still are just relying on CNN and New York Times, let alone Fox, for their news. So we need to still read them as pungent as they oftentimes are, and respond to them. Join human rights groups, NGOs, etc. When that conflict when everything started on the 27th, it kind of caught people by surprise. Most people were on vacation, etc. But I've also seen how having, a diverse staff at key organizations makes a real big difference. I think having, like I said, the human rights movement, I think for the most part has been good on this issue, but oftentimes we haven't been good. And part of the reason why I joined, sort of on a personal level, I joined the human rights movement was because I was very critical of how human rights groups have characterized conflicts around the world. And this idea of how we, creating quote unquote balance, creating parity, and ignoring power dynamics. And this is one thing that I invite you to join human rights groups, whether it's as a volunteer or a staff, because your voice is important. Your voice is important to say that you can't use half a website on half a web page on Israel and half a web page on Hamas. That just ignores. Even just the demands that we're saying for both parties. The Israel list is a lot longer because we say don't use white phosphorus, don't block borders, allow people to get medical attention, etc. But we need people in these organizations. We need diversity, and there is some, but I think there could be more. I know it's challenging. I know it's hard sometimes when you're going in and you're trying to work for an NGO where you don't see the diversity, you don't feel like your voice, particularly for Palestinians, where Palestinians, unfortunately, are so demonized, in this country. But I want to extend any help that I can offer you if you're interested in entering this field, so you can come to me after. Another one is to support organizations like the Jerusalem Fund, the Palestine Center. United Palestine Appeal, I think, is wonderful. UNRWA. I think it's important to donate, as much as, of course, I would love for you to donate to Amnesty. I feel like right now the critical need is organizations that are really, holding a candle to what's happening, like this center and like Samar's organization as well too. Sorry, it was a little longer than I expected, but I really love this photo because to me it just shows how Gaza had just, in the popular consciousness, it was such a big issue long before it was in the U.S. So, any other questions? Yep, you got in the blue shirt. Yeah.
Yes.
Please state your name and your affiliation. Keep your questions short.
I'm a local civic